Hello, lovely people, and welcome to another episode of Ask Arthur the Builder. My name is Stephen Yahoshua, your guest host for today, and I'm here with Mr. James Arthur, an expert in building and construction, who'll be giving us some great educational tips on building projects, especially for those of you who are in the diaspora desiring to relocate or repatriate to Ghana. Remember to share and subscribe this video to your friends and family or whomever that you think would be interested in seeing these great tips. Let's get right into it. Welcome back, family. Here's Mr. James Arthur here, my man. One thing I can tell you guys, I have mad respect, my wife and I, for Mr. James Arthur. I call him Mr. James Arthur because he has that royal regal name. But aside from that, what you see in this brother is what you get, and it's greatly appreciated. He's from the diaspora and he brings excellence in this field and very informative things. He's not going to give it to you any kind of way. He's not going to cut it. He's going to give it to you straight. That being said, James, you know very well that there are a lot of land litigation issues here in Ghana, maybe throughout West Africa, period. And a lot of people don't know the processes in which how to buy land. Somebody may market themselves or promote themselves as an expert. How important from the beginning is it to get the right person involved in their building process or their acquiring land or building a house process?
It's so important. To do it right from the beginning will solve so many problems, cost-wise. When you start off and you start a building project, and then there are structural issues, quality of sourced material issues, or any type of issue, it can cost you anywhere from 10 to 35% more on your total project cost by doing it the wrong way first. So especially during the build portion of everything, very important. Your land acquisition, all of these things, because they're all big ticket items, it's very important to work with the right people.
Now, you know, your discussions, our discussions, my wife and I, and other people's discussions, a lot of people, especially in the diaspora, are excited about getting land. They want to move on this thing, whatever desire it stems from. Should they just go out and do it without having some contact here on the ground? Because I know for me, I wouldn't advise anyone just to go get something and they don't have any resource here to check into something and make sure it's valid. What do you say about that?
No, that's absolutely correct. Ghana specifically deals with relationships. Relationships in business in Ghana is paramount, even more sometimes important than the amount of cold hard cash you have ready to move something forward. If one doesn't have the right relationships, it's incredibly hard to do things. So definitely forming solid relationships with reliable people is extremely important. If you get on ground and you start with the right, it doesn't have to be a lot of people, just the right people in whatever you're trying to do. If you have those relationships and rely on those resources, your experience will be night and day from trying to figure it out. The landscape is a little bit deceptive. You might get here, you might be, most of my life I spent in New York, very fast city, very on top of things. Naturally, as a New Yorker, the attitude is, anywhere I go, I can figure this stuff out, deal with the people on ground and get it done. But the Ghana is extremely deceptive in that way, and you can cost yourself a lot of money and a lot of discomfort for no reason. We've been coming back. There's people from the diaspora that have set up roots here that have been coming back since the 70s that I know of personally, and probably before then. Although even now recently, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and a lot of us have gone through all of these experiences before, so it's kind of unnecessary for our family to keep on coming back
Exactly.
and having to keep on going through the same things. Let's work together and help each other out. Definitely get with the right people. People that are viewing into my channel, I requested and asked Yahoshua to come out and do this guest host, and with his extremely busy schedule, he agreed to do it for us. Please, there will be contact information for some of the projects that he's working on. He has a newfound business partnership with an estates developer that's been an estates developer here in Ghana for years and years and years. There'll be information in the subject bar about that, although to get legitimate land, that's what they do. That's what the estate developer does. And now we have one of our diaspora brothers that is in partnership with them. So you can be assured that everything will be done at its utmost. Definitely add that on to one of the resources that everybody has available. It's great, but to not take too long in answering your question, yeah, you have to develop the right relationships. Without the right relationships, Ghana will be a difficult experience business-wise.
And I can say that also how it used to be in the States years ago when I was a small boy. My father used to say sometimes the relationship will go a lot further than your money. And that's what you were saying in the long run, because they do value relationships. Because, you know, you may find some people, and you can verify this, that may be interested in the short-term money. But if to find someone that sees the big picture, as far as, hey, I did good business with you and I want to continue to business with you, that's based upon what you just said, correct? That solid relationship.
Absolutely. You know, everything is generated, especially here in Ghana and West Africa, has a certain village concept to it. And I don't say that
Great
to
analogy.
say a physical village. Accra is a small place, and most people doing certain things know each other.
Right.
So when you get involved with the individuals in that village, you make your life a lot easier, and the people in the village know who else in the village you shouldn't work with, you shouldn't involve yourself with. So it actually holds both the carrot and the stick. Those relationships will help you know who to work with, who not to work with, and get you quite informed. So extremely imperative.
Let's talk about the purchasing, the different types of purchasing that one can embark upon. You have raw land someone can buy where they could come up with their dream. You could have a house, an existing house, whether it be a partially finished house. Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each of those, if you don't mind.
Okay, absolutely. So in regards to the real estate market, there are a couple ways to get into it. One way to get into it, which I'm sure most people stateside are familiar with, is you buy somebody's house. You buy somebody's house that is selling the house, that has lived in it for a number of years, or you buy from a property developer that has just developed a home or an apartment for the sole purpose of selling it. The benefits. The benefits of buying something that's already built, number one is it's built already, so you know what you're getting.
Right.
There's no guesswork to it. You actually can see the type of doors, the type of windows, the type of tile, the sink. You get an understanding of the light, everything that's there. You can see it for yourself. You also don't have the issue of hidden expense. When you go to build something yourself, things can come up. The land that you bought, when you dig down 3 feet, you might hit bedrock. You might hit a layer of rock. So you might have to bring in equipment to break up that rock, and you might have a bill of an additional $20,000, $15,000 that you weren't expecting. When you buy a property that's already built, you don't have any of that. You know exactly, okay, this is the price. you will come in at the higher end of the market. Obviously, anybody that has built, and most of the properties that you will encounter, honestly, are property developers and estate developers that have built it just for the purpose of sale. So when you buy a project like that, when you buy something like that, you will definitely come in at the higher end of the market. So the people that have built it want to make a profit.
Sure.
And they've been through probably a lot of back and forth, knowing the landscape here in Ghana to get that property up. So that will reflect in the price. If you don't have relationships on ground, if you haven't spent some time on ground, I would suggest that's the better way to get into the market. Absolutely. If you've never purchased a property before, you're a first-time homeowner, or you're a first-time person getting into the real estate business, and you don't have great relationships on ground in Ghana, definitely buying a property that's already completely built is a great option. We have a property development company, which is called Legacy Apartments, where we sell completely finished apartment units, 1 and 2 bedroom apartment units, 63 square meters and 78 square meters respectively. If that's an interest, or if one is even looking for something bigger, because these are only apartment units, definitely go in and go for things that are already built. On the other end of it, there's a middle ground. You can buy a structure that has been partially completed. It's been built, but it's not finished. Maybe the shell, what we call in construction, the shell is up. That has pros and cons also. It's going to be less expensive than buying something that's completely finished. It also gives you, when you buy something completely finished, you don't get to customize it.
True.
You're locked into whatever the person that built it chose. So if customizing your home is very important to you, and being involved in the building process, buying a shell kind of gives you the best of both worlds, because when you buy the shell, you're buying the land too. So you're buying the land and the shell at the same time. Mostly when you buy a shell, you can finish that construction within 3 to 6 months. So you can literally make a purchase and sometimes in 2 to 3 months be living in your home. When you do a project from scratch, depending on the size of the project, it can take anywhere from 8 months to 2 years, depending on the size and the technical details of the project.
What about your pockets, your money too?
It's just about in between. The only thing I would suggest, honestly, when somebody bought a partially completed structure, is that they go ahead and get their contractor involved before you pay the money.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. Get somebody that's qualified, that can do an inspection of the project.
Yes, sir.
And make sure that the shell that you're going to buy isn't a pitfall, isn't something that, because there's a lot of times people will put something up and then make structural engineering mistakes, huge mistakes, that would cost a lot of money to fix. And they want to dump that on somebody else. So if you go that halfway route, you have to get a contractor involved. And it's good to get the contractor that's going to finish the project. So the two people that you'd want to get involved is get an appraiser involved, which is a licensed quantitative surveyor, to give you a value on the shell that you're buying. That's one profession you want to get involved. The second is the contractor that's actually going to do the work. Because if you get an appraiser in, or you get a quantitative surveyor in that's not responsible to do the work, he's looking at it from a different angle. The number that he's giving you, he's writing up for you, is more of a value number, and not necessarily what it's going to take at that moment logistically to bring that project to completion to your standards. So
now, James, sometimes you may have, and I know this is in the States, you'll have a job and like you said, some structural engineering issues. And maybe the construction person that you've hired may not want to take on someone else's mess. Is that common here also?
Yes. So depending upon the level that you get involved with your builders, with your contractors, there are definitely local contractors that will not want to get involved in it for two reasons, and I'll be very honest. One is the technical ability to make these repairs.
Ooh.
Fixing a problem is more difficult than starting a building from scratch.
Okay.
If I start a building from scratch, all I really have to do is read the blueprint. If I read the blueprint and do exactly what the blueprint tells me to do, I will end up with a finished structure that goes according to the engineer and the architect specifications. Although if I'm fixing a problem where somebody varied from that architectural plan, I don't know how much variation was made. So now I'm making technical guesses on structural integrity. To give an example, I don't know the mix ratio that was cast for a pillar. I don't know the mix ratio that was used. So my options are if I have the technical ability, I can bring out very expensive equipment to test the mix ratio, or I can do what's more commonly done, make a professional decision on how off I believe the last person was and try to correct and offset for that structural defect. You have to get somebody that's qualified to do that. Also, because of the local culture, I think it's another side note that people here still believe in spells, witchcraft. Money's involved in this. So people can actually believe that if they take over your project, that somebody put a hex or a curse on it.
Juju.
Right, exactly. And that that they would have negative consequences for taking over your project. So a lot of builders, if they see somebody has started it, they'll just walk away from the project and not even want to involve themselves, even though you're ready to pay and compensate them. That deals with the level, obviously the educational level and the technical level of the construction company. If you deal with the larger estate developers, you won't have that issue. If you deal with some of the medium-sized contractors, you won't have that issue. If you deal with some of the foremen, some of the polytechnic guys, you could definitely have those issues.
You see, family, this is confirmation as to why James emphatically said the importance of relationships and to have someone on the ground, because we've heard of many horror stories. I know you've heard of some horror stories. I know for a fact how you've had to come in and almost rescue someone from a building project that was a mess, and almost have to they had to start from scratch essentially. And I believe part of my brother's job is to help prevent that from happening to many of you all. So take heed to this. Now let's go on to some of the land issues, because we hear from different attorneys that land issues are some of the biggest things that are held up in court, land litigation issues. What are some of these issues that some may face, including some of the local Ghanaians, and how can those in the diaspora avoid some of these pitfalls? I'm sorry.
Okay, there are tons of land issues. With buying fresh land that there's never been a building project on it before. One thing to do is to buy land that's titled already.
There you go.
That would be a big suggestion. You can get land less expensive that hasn't been titled already. Although when you save that money, just put it to the side in case you need it for litigation. And litigation doesn't always mean you're going to lose. So when we say litigation, if you do everything right and you acquire land and somebody winds up challenging it saying, no, they own the land, or it was sold to them, or you didn't pay the right person, if you do the right thing, you can take it to court and win and be successful. But just understand that there's a time component to going to court. There's a stress component to going to court. And there's a risk component to going to court, because no matter how much you do things the right way, in court at the end of the day, it will be a judge that makes the decision. And so you're subjecting your purchase to the ultimate decision and arbitration of another person that has no vested interest in the situation. So you have that risk level. When you buy titled land, you'll buy at the top of the market as far as land purchase are concerned. But I would definitely suggest for the first-time buyer, for the novice buyer, go in for purchase land or purchase through a relationship. Purchase through somebody that you know, that you can hold to account personally through the networks you have, through the communities that you have. Go that route. Understand too the difference between land title and indenture, which is a deed. So it's important to understand the legal difference between a deed and a title. Now, I'm not a lawyer, anything to do with law. I hire my attorneys deal with that type of stuff. Although from experience and doing my own research, to the best of my understanding, with a deed, what a deed is a legal document that transfers ownership from one person to another. So a deed is an instrument of transferring ownership. A title is a recognition of that ownership from the government. So a land title has to be underwritten by a government institution and registered in a government registry that you are the recognized owner of that property. That's what a land title says. What a deed and an indenture is the same thing, by the way. An indenture and a deed is the same thing. What a deed does is a deed transfers the ownership of titled land or untitled land to another person. So for example, if I own a piece of land and I have land title for it, I will still create a deed when I sell that land to transfer that land to somebody else. It is upon that other person to take that deed to the government, go through the process set forth by the government to get the government to issue a new title into their name. Now there's a specific transfer process, which is transfer of title. Now if the land is untitled, meaning I received the land by indenture and a land title was never issued by the government, and now I'm coming to sell the land, I'm going out to sell the land that has never been titled, I can still use a deed to transfer that land, that ownership. That's completely legal and lawful. The thing is, you have the issue of challenges. So in fact, if the owner of the land issues 3 different deeds to 3 different people and signs all of them, okay? All of those deeds are not legal because you can't sell the piece of land to 3 people. But now it's going to be a legal dispute between the issuer of those deeds, the guarantor, the grantor, and the deed holders, the people that have received those deeds. And questions will come up. Who received the deed first? When was payment executed? And all of these technical things. Who occupied the land? And all of these things. These are things that would be hashed out in a courtroom. But you don't necessarily want to subject yourself to this type of situation. So, and it's very common for people that own land here, especially chiefs and heads of families that own family land here in Ghana, which is the majority of land that's available for sale, to sell land to multiple people. Very common. Very common. Happens every day. Right now, as we're having this chat, it's happening right now.
Somebody's buying some land that someone else bought.
Has bought, yes. from the same seller. So to avoid that, strong relationships with somebody that can say and back up the integrity of that transaction, or involve a very good attorney from the beginning, or buy titled land. You can get people to consult too that have been on the ground before. I don't sell any land. I sell finished properties. I sell finished apartment units. I don't sell any vacant land. Although, and I don't do real estate transactions. I'm not a real estate broker. Although I can consult on it. So I can just use my experience to advise people whether they should or should not get into a specific purchase. So look for somebody that's competent and capable that can consult for you on it. Get an attorney that's reputable that can help you through the process. Buy land that's from a large company, a large estate developer, so you have more recourse. Those would be my suggestions with land acquisition.
James, I hear a level of not just conviction, but passion in all that you're doing. It reminds me of my wife, Candace, and myself, as why we're doing what we're doing to help our people out. For you, why is this so important? Because I just don't hear it's just about business, it's just about making money. But why is this important for you to share this type of information? Because you could just do like any other random person out here, just build your entrepreneurial empire and go on about your life and get whatever customer you get and keep on going. But why is this important to you?
Long-term sustainability of success. I realize how connected what I do is to the diaspora. One, my general contracting company serves 98% diasporians. Personally, I've repatriated totally and completely and now stay permanently in Ghana. My home base is here. I want more people to come back. And when people come back, I want the people that come back to have as easy as an experience repatriating and transitioning as possible. It's totally to the benefit of everyone. So I kind of am looking towards the future and seeing the benefit of the reunion of Africans in Africa and Africans outside of Africa. I personally believe that that's the only solution to our overall problem. And it's just a little thing that I can do to help, because I know that when diasporans come back to Africa, wherever they might decide to go when they come back to Africa, and they run into these challenges, they get frustrated, because I got frustrated. And they think about, well, I have a passport. I don't have to deal with this. I can go live anywhere. I can live in the U.S. I can live in Canada. I can live in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I can live in any of these Western countries and build a family and a house and set up roots. Why am I subjecting myself to all of these additional challenges? The people that have decided to do that know in their heart why they're subjecting themselves to all these additional challenges. But it's up to us that have already done it already, in my opinion, to try to give them as soft as a landing as possible. So that's the motivation with just putting out information to help and assist people in that transition process and being allowed to be used as a resource. It will get people, in my opinion, to come back. It will get more people to come back. It will get people that have decided to come back to get their friends and family to come back. And it will start the reconnection and reintegration of Africans from Africa and Africans from the diaspora, which is, in my opinion, the solution to most of our problems as a collective people, to be honest.
Perfect segue to the next question, because anyone that's astute to even just a little bit of history after slavery was allegedly abolished in the USA, during the Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln, we were promised 40 acres and a mule. And we know that that was stopped after the next president. That being said, how important of an investment is owning land and owning property, period, let alone in the motherland? How important is that for a black man, black woman, whether you be born in the continent or born in the diaspora? How important is that for your family?
Okay, let me answer this as a business person. Honestly, if 30% of your portfolio, your investment is not in land or real estate, you're insane.
Come on, say it again, bro.
No. It's honestly, real estate is an integral part of financial growth. It's an integral part. You can't truly grow financially without some level of investment into property, into owning your own land. Real estate is a fancy way of saying owning your own piece of land. It's integral. You have to do it. I know stateside we don't think about it. It's not on the top of our priority list, kind of because how we've been hardwired to think. It's done by engineer, by design, wherever you are. If you decide not to come back to Africa, if you will never come to Africa, if you come to Africa only to visit, buy land where you are. Buy and purchase land and real estate as an investment asset. You have to. Whether it's only 30% of your portfolio or whether it's 80 or 90% of your portfolio.
Even better.
It's always an incredibly safe way, whatever you like to do, whatever your interest is, but you have to have some type of investment into real estate if your goal is to have financial independence and freedom, and not forever be part of the working class.
Think about
The
it.
truth.
What is it called? Real estate.
Real. I mean, it's so important. The funniest things when I personally think about, I'm a very technical person. I'm not very nostalgic or spend any moments regretting anything. But honestly, there's two things that I sit back and ask myself, like, is there something wrong with you when you're a little bit younger? One is how long I stayed in the States.
Yeah.
I sometimes ask myself,
How?
are you okay? Like, why would you subject yourself to that for all of those years? Why would you do that to yourself? Knowing now it's a lack of experience and exposure. Sure. I was fortunate enough to travel a lot throughout my youth and my early adulthood, and throughout my life I got to travel immensely, although not necessarily doing business in the places I traveled. But at any rate, that's one of the things that, and the other thing is why it took me so long to get into real estate. I don't know why it took me so long to get into real estate, but if it's purchasing for somewhere to live, if it's purchasing somewhere to rent out, the apartment units, just to plug in what I do, I decided not to Airbnb or do any type of short stays with any of my apartment sales because I was hoping that people from the diaspora and people from the community would come in and purchase them and do that themselves so they can have their entry-level real estate business where they can put it on Airbnb, where they can rent it out short-term. I get calls nonstop about somebody wants to come in for a week, somebody wants the place for a month, somebody wants the place for 3 months.
Now, that's leading up to the next question about what your legacy apartments are, because you do offer something that's pretty unique here in Ghana. Just like with Casa Estates, they do interest-free financing for 24 months, but you do something even more amazing. You have a rent-to-own program for your apartments, which is something unheard of for the most part here in Ghana. Could you elaborate on that?
So this was the theory of it. People coming in from the diaspora, They rent an apartment in a prominent area in town. They pay anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month in rent. What can we do better than that? Well, what I decided to do is offer some of the properties that we have for sale for rent to own. So you pay similar prices, but at the end of 7 years, the property becomes yours. So then if you want to rent it out to somebody else, if you want to sell it to somebody, if whatever you want to do with it, you own the property. So all the money that you've been paying into it during those 7 years, which will probably be the peak 7 years of one's working life, or part of those peak years, because you only have a good 30 years of peak working time, you can use that as an instrument to hold value, and then have that value and be able to sell it, rent it, live in it, use it, transfer it, give it to some children. So that was something that we offered. It's a 7-year program, and currently the 1-bedrooms are slotted at $850. So it's $850 a month. You paid as rent. We also sign a contract that when you're done paying that for the course of 7 years, that the property becomes yours. It's your property.
So if you're out there and you have an idea, you have businesses there, you have land there, but you really want to get into something huge to make an impact, why keep letting non-Africans build in the country of our ancestors when we could do this collaboratively? Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, the only thing, I mean, on our company end, the only thing that really slows us down as far as putting up processes is access to capital on a business level. With better access to capital, we'd be able to do 3 times the amount of projects through the company, through legacy apartments than what we've done already. So yeah, absolutely.
And last thing I would like to ask of you, because we've seen the quality of your work and we believe in you, to have a future show where you could go in your apartments and show the difference between what someone may get from some of the structures you were talking about before. They may have some compromise issues in comparison to how you do it and why it's important. Because remember that commercial back in the States years ago? I think it was a car commercial. You could pay me now or you could pay me later. And how many times have we had people buy something cheap, but they got what they paid for? So would you be open to do a show like that to show people hands-on stuff on why quality, and having quality from the first question we ask, having someone quality from the beginning will save them a lot of money later compared to a little bit more now?
Oh, absolutely. That's actually a great show idea. Definitely let us know, please, through your comments if that's something you guys are interested in. I already think that that's a great idea for a show. I know people have contacted me personally in regards to acquiring land. Brother Yahoshua is working in partnership with a company that sells land, a reputable company that sells land. So definitely feel free to reach out to him for that, that specifically. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, because in light of what Arthur said in closing, my wife and I, we have a company where we help people acquire litigation-free land from the company Cost Estates, and the information will be on the trailer or whatever, however you guys disseminate the information. But you can contact us directly, and we act as your representatives here, your authorized representatives here on the ground, to make sure everything is done with integrity, honor, and transparency for you. We've already serviced more than 70 families so far now, and it's growing because we got to do some work together, and we're going to make it happen for you guys. Well, thank you for being with the show, Ask Arthur the Builder, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.